right and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get a Kyanite fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Mike Boo.
United pick up their biggest away win of the season as Salford is seen off in Greater Manchester. We look back on the Blues' impressive 4-1 win over the Ammies in the Peninsula Stadium, while looking ahead to this weekend's FA Cup second round tie at Walsall's Westcott Stadium. Yes, we've got Super Paul Simpson. That was ringing in my ears all Saturday, most of Sunday as well, wasn't it, Mike? What a performance from the Blues, wasn't it?
What an away day.
Quite incredible stuff, wasn't it, really? I couldn't quite get over how good we were at times in that game, but we'll talk a bit about our day out as well at Salford, won't we? Because it's interesting one, isn't it? It's an interesting stadium, interesting way of getting there and stuff, so so we'll just have to see. But yeah, I think fair to say pretty much everybody we spoke to leaving the ground, there's a few listeners who said, oh, you're going to have a good episode to record this week. We're chuffed about that result, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, what's to knock it? It had everything, and I don't think, well, obviously from our predictions last week, certainly none of us were predicting 4-1, and none of us were predicting, two of the goal scorers at least.
No, did any of us go for Christian Dennis at all?
None of us went for Dennis either, no.
I think there was a feeling that he maybe wouldn't be fit to start, possibly. That was a possible worry. But yeah, fantastic stuff, wasn't it? Right, before we get going, let's cover all the usual stuff we do at the start. Reminder that yet again this season, the podcast is being sponsored by the Carlisle United Supporters Club London branch. The London branch is open to all Carlisle fans. They've got members from Cornwall to Dundee and Houston to Singapore, and of course every part of London and the South East. They regularly meet up on away trips, as well as arranging many social events, supporters games and fundraising for the club. They'll be providing us with information for the away games as part of the preview section this season too. You can find out more about the London branch at their website, carlisle.londonbranch.org. And also, the usual reminder, social media, we are on there. You can find us at Brunton Bugle on Twitter and Instagram. We're also on Facebook. Just search for the Brunton Bugle and click like. As well as that, we're on the companies.net message board, the Be Just Unfair Not Facebook group, and you can drop us an email, bruntonbugle@gmail.com. Right then, Mike. Oh, sorry, no, as well, if you don't already subscribe to the podcast as well, just remember to do that. Just search in your podcast app for Brunton Bugle, click subscribe, and anytime a new episode comes out, you'll get a little alert telling you the episode's available, and you can download and listen to it at your leisure. And if you can, give us a review on any of those apps. That'll be wonderful stuff. Right, Mike, no news to cover this week, is there? I think it's fair to say it's been another quiet week, which not necessarily a bad thing, is it? The number of quiet weeks we're having at the moment. It's slightly reassuring, but slightly worrying as well. But there you go. Some interesting stuff, wasn't there, from Greg Abbott this week, though, actually, on the official side. I don't know if you've seen it. He's been doing interviews with the media and the club's media about his role and what he's been up to and how they're planning for January, how they're planning ahead for next summer as well, how difficult it was during the summer. So I'm
impressed with him. He says he gets to like 8 or 9 games a week. I mean, fair play. Like,
I mean, he'll be covering all the under-21 games, right? So I mean, if there's a couple in a day, you can get grabbed to a couple, can't you? So yeah, but I think he loves it, doesn't he? I think it's the perfect role for him. He seems to get on really well with Simo as well. They seem to be a good team, and we're certainly reaping in the dividends, aren't we? We always said, didn't we, that he's someone who has a real eye for a player, isn't he? His past record shows that, doesn't it? So it's really good to see that we're getting the benefit of it now, because I'm sure he's given that to other clubs since he's left us as well. Right then, let's as we've got no news, let's get into the Loan Watch, Mike. Only a couple of bits to cover this week, because Lewis Bell and Lewis Boyd, neither of them were in action this weekend. Gretna 2008, they've got I think it's a Scottish East of Scotland or South of Scotland Cup. It's like a League Cup sort of qualifying game or something this weekend. I have no idea who it's against. I saw it earlier, but I forgot to write it down. But the next league fixture for them isn't actually until next Saturday, the 3rd of December, when they play Cowden Beef in the Lowland League. And Lewis Boyd was supposed to be playing for Carlisle City against Bishop Auckland, but that game at Carlisle City's ground was called off due to a waterlogged pitch. He'll actually be playing this weekend in North Yorkshire when City take on Northallerton Town. So the two that were in action, Mike, Max Kilsby. Unfortunately, Annan's good run's come to an end, hasn't it? Yeah, a bit of a shame this one. They had a couple of good results, but brought a little bit back down to earth against Elgin City. They lost 3-1. Max did play the full 90 minutes against. That's 14 appearances now he's made for them, which is that's the best part about it, isn't it? The fact that he's getting these games under his belt. That's the thing we can be pleased about.
Yeah.
And this weekend they face a Border TV derby against Stranraer. They've travelling all the way over to the south west tip, I suppose you could call it, of Scotland, isn't it? Really. I say derby. I mean, it's a worse drive probably from Annan to Stranraer than it is from Carlton. Well, maybe not from Carlton to Barrow, maybe it's because it's a bit longer, but it's nearly as bad. Having done similar in the past, it's not. I'm sure you've probably done that one before a few times with your old jobs, have you? Maybe.
No, I haven't actually. No.
I thought you might have been out to Stranraer, but there you go. Yeah. Max will be back in action this weekend. Sam Fishburne, he missed last week's game. He must have had a knock or something, but he was back in action for Morpeth Town. Not a great weekend, though. They went down to a 2-0 defeat at Warrington Rylands. He came on as a 68th minute sub in this game, but he'll be hoping to get back in the starting 11 for this weekend's home clash with Belper Town. There is something actually I need to mention in the X-Blue section later on in terms of the game between Morpeth and Warrington Rylands, so I'll cover that just later. Right then, Mike, that's enough faffing about all that stuff. Let's get straight into the match review section. And, what a game to talk about. Salford 1, Carlisle United 4. The Blues dominant. I mean, not in terms of possession, when you look at the stats, but dominant in terms of the performance, weren't they, against a team that's considered a promotion rival, I suppose you could say, and a team that's been well backed, certainly in the past, and probably still is now, you'd think. And I don't think anyone who's at the game could argue that we deserved the 3 points. I've seen some things from their manager and some of their commentators suggested that the scoreline flattered us a bit, but I completely disagree. I think we were fantastic and well worthy of a 4-1 win.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one thing that Simo said, which I was quite impressed with, is he said, we knew that they were going to dominate possession, but we just had to keep it in places that we weren't too bothered about. Whereas I think you get other managers who would see that Salford like to dominate possession and think, right, we've got to stop them dominating possession. Whereas Simo's like, no, we know that that's what they're going to do, but we just have to deal with that and then hit them where it hurts. And that's exactly what we did.
I mean, yeah, just that second half, that 15-minute spell where we just absolutely battered them. And we'll talk about some of the key talking points from why that happened in a bit. But yeah, backed by another fantastic following as well. 1,300 fans there in a crowd of... 3,400. Not great at League 2 level, is it? If you you're only getting 2,000 home fans in, but that's another story altogether, I guess. But yeah, what a terrific effort from the lads. Let's get straight into it then. First up, team selection. Taylor Charters kept his starting place for the 5th game in a row, didn't he? Which was interesting because we sort of suggested maybe he would get dropped for this game, possibly, mate. Switch it up a little bit and bring Gibson in, and or maybe Dennis or Stretton to go up alongside Edmondson, but no, he showed a bit of faith in Taylor. He's certainly putting a marker down in the team, isn't he? And it was Jordan Gibson that lost his place to Christian Dennis, who there's been concern about his fitness of late. But again, what a great game he had, as we'll discuss in a minute. But were you particularly surprised by the team selection? I think when we saw it on our way up or in the pub, I think we were kind of like, this seems fair enough, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm surprised. I mean, you've got it down here as a 3-5-2, but when Charters is in there were times that it looked like the sort of 3-4-3 with a sort of front three of Charters, Dennis in the middle, and sort of Edmondson out wide as well.
Yeah, I think
it was quite a flexible formation, wasn't it? Really,
I've said 3-5-2, but on the basis of that's what Simo sort of seemed to suggest it was from the start, because he suggested the reason Charters started was as much to play him as a number 10 to put him on Elliot Watt and give Elliot Watt something to think about in terms of the physical presence there. So that's the reason I went with that. But yeah, it did become a bit more of a 3-4-3 at times, didn't it? And Charters has just shown how flexible he is. He can play in that midfield three. He can play just behind the front two. He can play on the left wing. So he's turning into a really, really good player for us. It's really, really impressive. Let's talk about chances and goals then. I mean, what a start. I mean, absolutely flying. I mean, they dominated the ball for the first couple of minutes, but then we really got at them. From their throw-in, it should be said, on their right, ball's played in and Moxon wins the ball back. And does really well to hold off his man, and then slots a lovely ball through, doesn't he?
Fantastic ball, wasn't it? Yeah.
It perfectly weighted. That's the key thing with it, because you can overhit those quite easily. And he was a bit off balance as he did it too, so he did really well to get it to him. Finn back, full credit, first time shot. Keeper makes a decent-ish save, and I think that as a keeper there, there's not much else you can do, and your feeling is to your defenders, be alert for this, because it's going to come loose and you need to clear it. None of them. They're all stood ball watching, and Christian Dennis said, "Thank you very much," and put it into an empty net, didn't he?
Yeah, and there was no one anywhere near him, was there? So, yeah, 1-0. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and he was definitely onside as well. It should be said actually, because there's a play on the 6-yard box line, and he's behind that. So yeah, really, really good stuff. I mean, for the rest of the first half, I mean, there was. It's interesting because when you look at the stats. It shows that they had 14 shots in total and 5 were on target, and we had 16 shots and 7 were on target. And yet I'm looking through the chances they had. They didn't have that many in the first half, did they actually? I mean, you've got Callum Hendry had that long-range effort that went well out. I mean, we were right behind it. It was well over the bar, wasn't it? It was comfortably over. There was Finn back at the post as well. I mean, oh, God, so unlucky with that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Again, a lovely weighted ball through from Taylor Charters this time. Perfectly into his path. Takes his touch, tries to slot it around. It's just a little bit more bend on it. It's a goal, isn't it? Unfortunately, that was actually the end of his game, though, wasn't it? As he, I think he pulled up, stretching to play the shot, and tried to play in a little bit after that, but he just couldn't. And obviously, Jack Ellis had to come in, which we'll talk about later. And there, Thomas Holy actually made a. It's interesting. He was very dominant on crosses, wasn't he? I mean, Ibu Toure on the left for them was putting a lot of balls into the box, wasn't he? But it was pretty easy for Holy. And then there was a couple of times where I think he realised actually Toure playing a lower ball into the box was better because it makes it a bit more difficult for Holy to claim it. But there was one where he overhit the cross and Holy came to go for it and sort of panicked a little bit. I wouldn't say flapped it, but he got a touch on it to take it away from one player, but it landed to, is it Torres, the lad on loan from Brighton. And he hit a first time, I can't remember if it was the first time, but he hit a shot and I didn't realise at the time because it's difficult. From where we were stood, we were on the other side of the goal, weren't we? So it was harder to see. Having seen it back, it's a brilliant save, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a brilliant sort of recovery, wasn't it? Because he was kind of in no man's land a little bit with the cross, but to come back across and tip it over at such a key point in the game as well. Massive save that was, yeah. And
just after that, from the same play, he made a really good shot save from a low shot that was sneaking in just inside the post, wasn't it, as well? So it goes to show he didn't have a huge amount to do, Thomas, in this game, but for the two times he did have something to do, he was sharp, he was alert, and I think all the other chances they had were long-range efforts were pretty comfortably saved, weren't they? Really?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a game that the expected goals statistics would have been interesting for it. I know some people aren't into it, but while in the first half they had loads of shots, none of them really looked like goals. Whereas we had sort of 2 decent chances in the first half that were really, really good chances.
Yeah, they won't. I mean, there's an argument the one they hit the post, again, it should be a goal like the other one, isn't it? So I'm just trying to see if I can find out the information about the expected goals. I probably should have found this before I started, but anyway. Other than that, we actually had another couple of chances ourselves. Let's see. Guy had a long range effort over the bar. Was always going over the bar. It wasn't really so much of a clear chance, was it? But Huntington nearly. I mean, this is one that's kind of been forgotten in all this, hasn't it? Because there were so many other chances. People kind of forgot the fact that, well, actually, Paul Huntington had a header from a corner. Was it a corner or a free kick? Well, maybe a free kick. I can't remember. Header from a corner.
It's cleared off the line. Yeah.
It was cleared off the line, and it was going in comfortably, going in as well. So really good header off the line from their player. And in another day, we're going into the halftime break 3-0 up, and you couldn't really argue with it. Could you? It's quite incredible. Isn't it? I've got it up now here, Mike. Expected goal for this game 1.09 for Salford and 1.83 for us. So we outperformed it quite well, actually, to be fair, to get 4. But
well, I think the second half certainly skewed it a lot in our favour, but I think the first half they had a lot more shots on goal, but none of them were threatening. Yeah.
I mean, looking at here, the top expected, the top player XG for us, Christian Dennis 0.7, which you'd expect, two tap-ins basically. Paul Huntington had 0.3, so the other chances weren't that good, clearer chances maybe, I guess. But there you go. Into the second half. So frustrating to concede this goal. only 7 minutes after the break, isn't it? Really, and it's one of those ones. It's we defended really well from the initial set piece. Got some good blocks in, and the ball was cleared out to Toure, and he's not outright on the left by the corner flag or anything like that, is he? Because I think if he puts the ball in there, he tries to put a bit of height to get over the defenders and wholly claims it. Because he's a bit more central, it's actually, I think he deserves more credit for the ball than Holy and whoever was marking Smith deserve criticism for poor defending from our side. I think he deserves credit. I think it's a really, really good ball in because it's an awkward height.
It's in that corridor of uncertainty, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's the right phrase. And it's a height where Holy's like, I can kind of come and claim it, but if one of them gets there just before me, I'm probably taking them out. And he's not totally in control in that situation. There's an argument maybe he probably should have come to get it, and I'm sure he'll probably think himself that he should have come to get it. But it's a great ball in, and Matt Smith gets his little touch on it, and it flies into the back of the net. And at that point, you think, I kind of feel like in previous games or previous seasons, we might have been, here we go again. We're going to drop, we're going to end up losing this. Never thought that, did we? We were the four of us that were stood together in the stand. Were kind of like, it's all right. We'll come back. We've had chances.
Well, the fans started singing pretty much straight away.
Yeah.
To really get behind the team, and it sounds mental to say, but I think that Salford getting that equaliser was the worst thing that they did because we were quite happy to see the game out at 1-0, and then they scored, and our players just had a rocket with the backside, and we just unleashed hell on them.
Yeah, we really stepped up from that point. I mean, interesting, some of it didn't appear in many of the highlights. Moxon had a shot from about 40 yards, didn't he, that flew just wide of the post. We were right behind it, and the keeper was scrambling a little bit.
He was nowhere near it.
He wasn't going to get to it, was he? And then Moxon had a low shot after a bit of a scramble from a set piece that the keeper was going one way and it deflected, and it only just deflected wide of the post. And again, that would have been a goal if it had gone in. Sorry, if it had been on target, I should say. Because the keeper was going completely the wrong way. From the resulting corner, United retook the lead, didn't they? And I mean, it's one of those ones, it was a short corner, and you think, every time I see short corners, just put it in the bloody box, don't piss about with it like that. It was played short to on the right by Charters to Moxon. He shows nice footwork, digs across out, finds Edmondson, his header down gets blocked, and then, I mean, considering he'd never scored a league goal before this season, Callum Guy's now got 3 this campaign, and yet again, it's an absolute belter from outside the box, isn't it?
He could have a goal of the season competition by himself. They've all been candidates for goal of the season, haven't they? And it's such a key point in the game. And one thing I noticed, so I noticed his partner was at like sort of maybe on the second to last row of that stand to our right. Yeah. And when that goal went in, she was like right down at the front, going absolutely mental. Which you love to see. I mean, absolutely, everybody was going mental. To be fair, but yeah, just the away end erupted, and I think the players got a little injection of that and thought, yeah, we want a little bit more of this today.
That really, I think you got it absolutely bang right there. That gave them a lift. You could see it. You could see the what's the word? Testosterone. They were really getting pumped up, weren't they? They were like, yes, this is what we want. And the funny thing is with it, where we were behind the goal, we didn't actually see it hit the back of the net, did we? No. The only thing we could tell is the fact that the keeper dived at it, the back of the net rippled, and then everyone just went mental to the left of us. Like, oh, it must have gone in then, and everything just went absolutely balmy. And the goal celebrations on the pitch side blue stuff was fantastic, wasn't it? Really. So if anyone hasn't seen it, go and watch it, because there's all kinds of things going on. I mean, you obviously got Callum Guy going, Matt Edmondson, a few others,
and Dennis the Menace stealing people's hats.
Well, 3 I think is the totally managed, wasn't it? So basically all the stewards are trying to obviously get the players back away from the crowd, which people complain, but that's what they're told to do. It's their jobs, isn't it? So they're trying to get them back, and Christian Dennis is behind them, and he's like, I want to have a bit of fun here, and he picked one hat off, dropped it on the floor, picked another off, dropped it on the floor, and then after all the celebrations were sort of done and they were walking away, he sort of looked back and go, why not another? And walks over to this lad who's got his back to him, takes his hat off and throws it up in the air almost. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It was really good to see. But yeah, like after that point, we were just really getting into them, weren't we? And Corey Whelan, another player who's really stepped. I mean, his contribution this season has been fantastic, and we've said it a few times. But like, you need that if you're going to have a good season. You need players who who aren't going to grumble if they're left out sometimes, who are going to wait for their chance and be patient and
Yeah,
take it.
I think a lot of teams, if you're to have a defender as good as Morgan Feeney go off injured, that can cripple you. That can really cripple you. And, Whelan just comes in, does his job, sort of no nonsense.
Yeah.
And, gets a goal. And needless to say, none of us predicted him to score either in our predictions.
I should say, we've got one. I mean, I went for Huntington again, didn't I? And he had one bloody cleared off the line, the bastard. Or was it you that went for that? I can't remember who it was.
I went for Huntington as well, I think.
I
went for Phelan. Feeney, I think.
Or maybe someone went for Mellish. I can't remember. But I can't believe we've got just over 20 minutes in. And that's the first mention we've had of Feeney going off very early in the game for Whelan. So, it goes to show, like, we have these setbacks. I mean, Salford must be bloody cursed that pitch, mustn't they, really? I mean, you had an easy description of the pitch, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought it was a bit of a catfish. Like, it didn't look like a horrible pitch. You see some pitches that look like a potato field, but it didn't look bad. But it wasn't until these sort of players were running on it and that you realised this is not a good pitch. And it's no surprise that two players went off injured, to be honest with you.
It was cutting up quite badly at times, wasn't it? It wasn't nice to see in some places. But yeah, so fantastic from Corey. Basically a corner from the right by Charles. I'll tell you what a fantastic delivery he's got with his left foot.
Yeah. Something
we've been missing, a little bit of an alternative. And I think Simo sort of mentioned this, hasn't he? The fact that he's got a good left foot and he likes that balance he brings, and it's not just in terms of normal play. It's things like set pieces. He adds us a different dimension. We can whip a ball in like that, and Moxon can do it on the other side. It's exactly what we need. And terrific ball in. And it's funny because just before that we'd had another chance, haven't we? And I think Whelan was getting pulled all over the shop, wasn't he?
Oh my God!
It was ridiculous. Like, he was pretty much having the shirt taken off him, and Huntington was the same. He was having his shirt practically pulled off.
And the referee was right in front of it as well.
Yeah, he did nothing about it, did he? So this ball comes in, and we were screaming as the ball was being hit. Ref, penalty, because Whelan was basically being held back again. And we were screaming penalty, and then as soon as he got his head in, hit the back of the net, like, it's all right. It's all right, just leave it, and we'll just get on with it. And just again, it went mental, didn't it? And I thought it was quite nice that Whelan went to the other side of the goal, actually, as well, because all the other celebrations came down our side. So nice to balance it out a little bit. But yeah, fantastic header. I mean, just got himself. I mean, a ball like that is just asking to be headed in, isn't it? It's just so well delivered. And
exactly. And it had sort of such dip on it. Like, it was sort of in the 6-yard box, but at the same time, when it went past the keeper, it was too high for him to claim.
Yeah.
And it just sort of looped down right onto Whelan's head, and he couldn't really miss, could he?
He'd almost stooped to head it, didn't he? It wasn't like he was heading it from a high height. He actually stooped down, and really, really good control finish. Again, even though it was literally right in front of us, it's very hard to tell it actually gone in at first, wasn't it? Again, it was hit the back of the net rippling, as what told us that the ball had gone in. And brilliant stuff. And then I'm just checking there was any other chances I missed that. I can't remember if this was in between them, but Jon Mellish was so close to scoring as well, wasn't he?
It was a good chance, wasn't it? Sort of on his right foot. I don't think he realised exactly how much time he had. But he absolutely terrorised them when he went into midfield, didn't he?
Yeah, that's one of the talking points we definitely got coming up, because I know there's some people listen to us saying, "Oh, you always say Jon Mellish is good. You never say anything bad about him." Tough shit. We're going to say how good he was this week, because he was fantastic.
Yeah,
he really was. So he had that chance. It sort of bobbled about, didn't it? And he sort of fell to him, and Salford just watching, I think, waiting for an offside, didn't come, and he just slashed it, didn't he? I think if it's on his left foot, it's in the back of the net basically, but it landed on his right, so it was a bit tough for him. But then, the fourth goal comes, and it's funny, he was absolutely dead on his feet, Christian Dennis, at this point, wasn't it? There was one point where he actually got to a ball first, and the defender still sort of got it off him and got away from him, because he was dead on his feet. And Simmer at that point, and this was literally about seconds before the goal, I think Simmer was like, right, I'm going to have to sub him off here. But the ball didn't go out after that. And he came back to our defence. I think Guy played a ball forward, and Moxon did this wonderful sort of shielding and turn on the ball, didn't he? The two defenders left it. He was away, and we were just screaming, go on, go yourself, hit it, when he got about 25 yards out, but he got blocked. But then Charles did well to recover the ball. Lovely little pass into Moxon. He finds Jon Mellish marauding down the right wing, as is his wont. He gets into the box, hits a low cross, deflects up and sort of, not really over the keeper, was it? It wasn't really a really high height, but it
kind of wrong-footed the keeper, didn't it?
Wrong-footed the keeper, and Dennis did exactly what good strikers do. He got himself into a good position, waited for the ball to come, and just nodded it with a diving head into the empty net, didn't he? And
yeah.
I think at that point, even though he had 2 goals, I don't think he was bothered about waiting to get a hat-trick, was he? Because he could barely walk after that, so he was fine with that. Came and celebrated with the fans again, and that was pretty much it. We had a couple of sort of half chances, but nothing really major after that, was it? We just saw the game out, didn't we? And really professional performance, and 3 brilliant points, wasn't it? It's hard to find any real negatives from this game, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, well, negatives not from a Carlisle perspective, but we'd sort of touched on it before. Another poor referee performance. He bottled sending Narty off. He was already on a yellow, and he did another bad foul. He was pulling Whelan's shirt right in front of him.
Yeah,
didn't notice. It was one of. I think if we didn't win, we'd be more bothered. But I just thought...
yeah, it's interesting. You're probably right with that. But I mean, it's funny because you were saying how bad he was to Chris, who was there with us. Yeah. You were talking to him about it, and I think I sort of chipped him up and said, I don't think he's been actually that bad. I think we've had a lot worse. And
no, but
I know
the par for a bad referee is Leighton Orient now.
I know. But to be honest, I still think even if you take him out of the equation, I think we've had a few worse this season. A few dodgy decisions, but generally let the game flow fairly well. And I can't grumble too. I mean, at the end of the day, we won 4-1, so who cares really? That's the important thing, isn't it? But there you go. Right, before we go to talking bunch, we have a couple of our 6-second reviews.
Yes.
What we're going to start with, so we've basically got 3 of our regulars. We've got Greg Bullman, Regan Thompson, and young Craig Robson. So who do you want to go with first, Mike? You pick.
We'll go with Little Craig.
Little Craig, right? Let's have Craig's first. Let's go with the best first, then, shall we? Yeah, that's what we're looking at it. Right, here's Craig's thoughts on the game.
The Blues go marching on another day. Amazing performance with a few hiccups, but we managed to sort it all out, and we were all over them. We'll start with the negatives then. Their number 3 I thought was really good in this game, and in the first half especially, I don't think we managed to keep him quiet, and as a result of that, they got their crosses in the box and eventually equalised. Gibson left on the bench this game, which was a bit of a surprise, but then again, I think Taylor Charles deserved to keep his place in the team. Gibson came on quite late, and he didn't do much, but I think if you bring him on a bit earlier, then he can go run at them and cause havoc. Now I can talk about injuries. I don't like Salford, because when I think about Salford, the first thing I think about is the disgusting toilets, and second, Joel Senior. Because when I was there last season, he got injured, and this time, Finn back and Morgan Feeney. Now, I don't know how serious it is, but I just hope they're back for the cup game on Saturday. Just going back to the toilet part anyway, the only thing I'm going to say is they need some new ones. It's the worst I've seen, ever. Now for some happy news. Dennis finishing and positioning. His second goal was his 100th career goal. And Holy's save as well. Can I just say it was amazing. It was supreme. It was world class. And it kept us ahead. It was one of the best saves I've seen in my 11-year life. And finally, can I just mention the amazing away support of over 1,300. A great day out. Now I think that's all from me for now. Bye. Up the Blues.
Another belter there from. I tell you what, plenty of toilet talk there. He's lowering the tone of this podcast, isn't he? Tell you what, Craig, let me tell you this, and I know you'll be listening. Oh, you haven't lived sunshine if you've not been. Hey, you didn't get to experience, and I think Mike might know which toilets I'm going to mention here. If I was going to say the worst toilet I've been in, Mike, what do you reckon I'm going to say?
Well, there's been quite a few. I mean, my worst was Stevenage, to be honest. Purely because
new them, aren't they?
Well, you say that though, but right, it'd been a long drive, and I'd had a big dinner the night before. Don't need to go into too many details.
Okay, yeah.
But the lock was broken, right, and the cubicle door was quite far away, so I needed to sort of keep a foot on it to keep it shut. But it was quite far, and it's just a very uncomfortable and awkward experience.
Okay. I think we can tell that. No, I was going to say Bootham Crescent. The most horrendous toilets there's one time where they literally were flooding and you're having to wade through piss basically to get to the what they called. They basically make the Warwick Road end ones and the Paddock ones look like luxury. That's how bad they were, the ones at Bootham Crescent. And I'm sure we'll have a few tweets from other people telling us they remember just how bad those toilets were. Absolutely shocking. But yeah, no. Let's pick a couple of other points that Craig mentioned there. The one about Toure is an interesting one. About we didn't get enough help to stop him because I didn't mind this too much because you know what, he was constantly putting high crosses in from the left, and that wasn't a problem for me. He's a very good player, Toure, and he was whipping those in, and they were at such a comfortable height, pretty much all of them for Holy. Sometimes it's fine, just if they're going to whip a ball like that in, it's okay. Keep him a fair distance away, so he has to put that height on it. My worry would have been if he got to the byline and been able to put a low ball in or something like that, but it wasn't, so it wasn't too bad in the end. But it's a fair point. We didn't get particularly tight on him at times, and I think second half was much better, and I think Jack Ellis played a big part in that with his performance. Let's talk about the Taylor Charles point, because I've got it as a talking point anyway. It's amazing to see the confidence he's got at the moment, isn't it? And how it's really great. He's great. He looks like he believes he should be out there now, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if I was to sort of have one minorly critical point about him, I mean, him and Moxon are different kind of players. But for me, Moxon gets a lot of the ball. He he sees a lot of the ball. Charters doesn't seem to get on the ball as much. And I get, sometimes he's further forward, but when he does get the ball, he can really make things happen. But sometimes you want to see him just get the ball a little bit more to make things happen. But no, I mean, he's sort of put it on Simo now to drop him, and Simo can't drop him on form. And like you sort of said before, he's got that left foot, which adds a different dimension. He can play different roles within the same game. Yeah. He just gets on with it. He gives nothing less than 100%. And he's got that long shot on him in his locker, which I think sometimes puts teams on the back foot as well. He's just a really good young player, and I hope that he stays with us for a good while, and we can notch a good sort of 100+ games out of him, because he's what we need.
Well, he's halfway there, isn't he? He's at 50 now, isn't he? Pretty much. So he's doing pretty well. I know a lot of those have been as a sub, but hopefully a lot of them are going to be a start going forward. But no, I think him and Moxon are a little bit different. I think Moxon is a bit more of a busy player, and he is going to get a lot more involved in the middle. And Charles is probably going to have to wait for the ball a little bit more. But I think actually he looks technically so sound, doesn't he? As well when he gets the ball, he looks very tidy. The way
but physically as well, nice for a young lad.
He can
definitely put himself about.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the moment, he's keeping arguably our best creative player out of the team, isn't he?
Exactly.
Which is a real testament to how much belief Simon has in him. And I'm sure it's frustrating for Jordan. I'm sure he wants to be out there and playing, but he'll get his chance. I know he'll get his chance, because players pick up injuries and stuff like that, and we change the way we play sometimes. Yeah. So yeah.
But there's a little bit of me as well that kind of thinks with Gibson, and I am a fan of him, but Gibson got out the team because he picked up 5 stupid bookings, and it's almost sort of saying to players that if you pick up 5 stupid bookings and you get out the team, you might not necessarily have your place back once your suspension's over. Which I think is a good sort of message to give to the team.
And I think it's good as well to make him fight for his place as well. I think that's not a bad thing actually. And when he comes back in, I'm sure he'll come in raring to impress, won't he, as well? Which is not necessarily a bad thing. If you know you can get back in quite easily, you might be a bit. Okay, I don't really have to put that much effort to do it. He knows he's going to have to really dig deep to keep his place in the team in the future. And it's the same for Taylor. I'm sure he knows that Jordan's waiting there to take his place if he doesn't impress. So yeah, absolutely. I think he had a great game as well. Also a note, as Craig mentioned there, 100th career goal for Christian Dennis as well. Yeah, fantastic milestone. Not a lot of players get to that, so really, really good to see him hit that. What else? Anything else you pick out from what Craig said there? I don't think there was much else. It was all pretty much spot on, wasn't it?
He was quite thorough, wasn't he? Yeah.
Very impressed by Thomas Foley's save as well. So I presume that's the one we were talking about, the one where he came across when he sort of dropped the cross initially. So that's the reason why I probably can't give him as much credit as Craig did, because I think it's one of those ones maybe he should have done a little bit better with the cross. But there you go. Right, 2 more left. Greg or Regan, what are we going for? We'll leave him.
Yeah, we'll leave Regan to last.
Because we know how that's going to end, don't we? So, as he told us he was going to be sending us it, so there you go. Right, here's Greg's thoughts on the game.
So the game on Saturday, I thought we were going to get off to a bad start when we were in Brewdog, and I thought you were going to leave your black pudding when you had your breakfast. I was really concerned. I thought I was going to have to jump in and eat it, but you found your second wind and you ate it, so fair play. So got to the game. I thought it was going to be one of those typical away days, get the early goal and then just get everybody behind the ball. And yeah, we gave up a lot of possession in the first half, but they didn't really do anything with it. It was comfortable, and it just felt like it was going to be a comfortable win. Second half started, they got a good goal. Well, they had a good start to the game, and then we just seemed to find another gear, and we just absolutely battered them. I've got to give a shout out to Whelan and Ellis. I thought when they came on, they were brilliant. It just shows that we've got some real strength in depth. It was a really, really great all-round team performance on Saturday. I can't think of a player that had a bad game. It was, every single one was solid. I thought it was Thomas Hawley's best game for Carlisle United. That save he made in the first half, I thought was brilliant. He was taking catches out the air. It was one of his most commanding games for me. We had a cap that nearly ended up on my head. That was thrown in our direction off. That seemed to be doing their rounds in their way in. So I think that must have been when the players were stealing hats. And got a little bit carried away on the second goal. But all in all, a good day. Up the Apple Sours Blues.
There we go. For those who probably, no one will know the real reason about this. Basically, Greg told us when we were before the game, we were in Brewdog, and then he said, "I'm gonna have to go to the pub next door. It's like basic. I think it's called the Shakespeare in Manchester. I'm gonna have to go there to get an apple sour." I was like, "Why do you have to go there to get an apple sour?" He said, "Well, seemingly him and Matty, who also comes to the game with us, before every game we've won this season, have had an apple sour shot." And that's apparently now the tradition. They have to do it, otherwise, the Blues won't win. They had a Sambuca before Stockport, and look what happened there.
Exactly.
So it has to be an
apple. You can't argue with facts.
No, stone cold facts, aren't they? Basically, so there you go. But no, it's interesting. Another one who picking out Thomas Hawley's saves, and maybe I should give him more credit than I am. Basically,
that's maybe you should.
Look at it. Yeah, but you mentioned Whelan. Now we've obviously touched on Whelan, obviously, but let's talk about Jack Ellis then. I mean, once again, coming in and doing a job at his age. I mean, we've got to remember the fact that Finn Back is only a little bit older than him. They're very similar age, the pair of them. They've both been fantastic. And we discussed last week whether Back or Ellis, and there's a bit of discussion about who it should be. We actually got to see them both play in this game. I thought Back was fantastic, actually, for the 25 or so minutes he was on the pitch. He just terrorised their left wing back, didn't he? He was getting up and down the pitch. He really pushed them back, actually. And very unlucky with the shot that hit the post, but obviously picked up an injury as a result of that. But Ellis came in and didn't get as forward as he has done as much in previous games, has he? But in terms of defensively, bar that one chance Toure had to cross in the second half, Toure did nothing, didn't he, really? Yeah. And that's a testament to how smart and switched on Jack was. I think the difference actually is the second half, we did change formation. So Jon Mellish went up into midfield, which we'll talk about shortly, which did mean it was more of a back four, wasn't it? So he probably didn't have as much opportunity to get forward. Same with Jack Armour on the left. But he just shows that he can do that role as well. It's not just being a wing back, he can be a full back as well. So
yeah, exactly.
Brilliant performance from him again, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's kind of what we've come to expect of him now. I'm almost sort of like, why are we making a big deal out of this? This is the player that he is. That's what he's capable of. It's great to see, and likewise with Charters. I hope that he's with us for a long time yet. But sadly, it's not always the way with these young lads.
Yeah, it can be. It's tough, isn't it? Sometimes you're going to lose some of them. We talked about a lot of players here. We'll talk about Jon Mellish soon. I promise. I keep trailing it, don't I? Basically, but briefly as well to talk about Paul Huntington again. Does that man lose a header? And it just every time he sends a header, there's nothing delicate about it. He gets distance on it. He basically makes sure he's heading into next week, isn't he? It's just so impressive to see how he leads that team without being captain. Doesn't need to be captain, does he?
No, exactly. And I think that's one of the reasons why Ellis has been so good. Having someone like Huntington alongside you just sort of taught you through the game a little bit. He's been round the block, and I think we didn't need Ellis bombing forward once we had the lead. So yeah, he was more of a right back than a right wing back. Obviously, the formation changed as well. But yeah, just both of them. I mean, I say both of them. All of the Cumbrians in the team have just been brilliant, and it just adds that little bit. I don't know. I don't want to say it adds a bit of heart to the team, because the non-Cumbrian lads have heart as well. But it just adds a little bit more togetherness with the fans. I don't know. It adds something.
When the fans know some of the lads who are playing as well, I think that definitely helps. Because you've seen Moxon's. There's a brilliant photo that Stuart Roy Clark, of Homes of Football fame. He uses the game photographs off, and he took a brilliant photo of Owen hugging one of his mates in the crowd after the final whistle, which was just a really lovely photo. And it goes to show what what it means to these players, doesn't it, as well? So I guess that's the way it is. Right, we've put him off for long enough. Is he going to give us the catchphrase? That's the question. Here's Regan's thoughts on the game.
Yeah, what a win. Probably the perfect away performance. I don't think it's by far the best we've played this season, but I mean, when you can put a team on a sword like that without playing your utmost best, then it's real positive signs. They had their little spell. I think it was like 20 minutes at the start of the second half or something, but they didn't really trouble us too much other than that. I think it says a lot about the club when they've spent however much money getting to this stage and changed gaffers how many times, and they still resort to just humping it long. I guess you can throw all the money you want at the end of the day, but you can't really build a football club that way. John Coleman said it himself that Jon Mellish is the MVP of this Carlisle team, and I absolutely agree with it. I think if he don't play well, we don't play well, and when he's missing, you can really tell it as well. So fair play, Jon Mellish. And I'll say the same thing that I said to John Coleman, and that's that I, for one, know the crack. Shagging, it's as simple as that.
He did actually say for me to sell. He forgot to put up the blues at the end, so he passes on his up the blues as well to make sure he completes the set. But yeah, we've got to get the catchphrase in there at the end. But that takes us on quite nicely, doesn't it? That actually he's put us on to the next point. I haven't even listened to those three this week, and I've managed all the points I wanted to talk about. I've been in there, so it's lovely. It's almost like it's done by magic. Viva Jon Mellish. Play where he wants. Wants to play. If he wants to take over as manager when Simmer leaves, give him the job. I'd make him chairman. I don't. What a guy! Yeah. I mean, he's been excellent in defence this season, but it's actually noticeable how big of an impact he actually has when he moves into midfield as well in games. And Simmer has done it about 4 or 5 times at least now, maybe even more. I can't remember, but the thing that stands out for me when he does go into midfield is. Yeah, he goes in there and causes a bit of chaos. We know that. We always know he can do that. But he's a lot more careful with the ball than he ever was under Beach and Millen. And that's a testament to the work Simmer has done, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I sort of said, I said it on Saturday to you, that Salford are quite a team sort of built of under 21, like former under 21 Premier League players. Who were sort of technically very good, but they're not as sort of physical as, some of the players who have maybe worked their way up through non-league kind of thing. And they just did not know what to do with Jon Mellish. They're not trained to deal with a bull in a china shop. He just ran straight through them. And, I'm sort of going off on a bit of a tangent here, but Salford were psychologically damaged by us. I mean, it got to a point, they were 4-1 down and they were passing it around the back. And they had no intention of going forward, because every time they went forward, we just hit them back twice as hard. And they were time wasting. They were 4-1 down and they were time wasting. They had a player down tying his laces for about a minute before he took a corner. They were just they were terrified of laying a glove on us. And I think Jon Mellish played a massive part in that.
At the final whistle, they were down on their knees, some of them, like if they lost a playoff semi-final or something like that. And I don't think they coped with the intensity of the game at all. I think you're absolutely right. And Jon Mellish, as you say, he's such a big part of that. When he plays like that, he drives forward. He's constantly in players' faces. It's been joked about that he's not the sharpest tool in the box at the club, but sometimes that helps. He just doesn't think about it. He just gets on with it, and he must. I mean, I don't know what the stats are like, but the amount of times he won the ball. It was astonishing, that game, winning the ball back high up the pitch and just constantly getting in players' faces.
Did you see it as well? Did you see the footage of Guy's goal? Because when Guy scored his goal on that sort of corner originally, their defender was all over John. He had hold of him. Anyway, Guy slammed it into the net, and then Mellish, after the ball hit the net, Mellish just shoves him and says, "Yeah, have a bit of that." It was absolutely watch it again. It's brilliant. Yeah,
it's amazing, isn't it, when he does stuff like that? All right, here we go. I'm trying to find while you were talking. I've been trying to find a heat map There's if you go on whoscored.com, they do heat maps. I'm just going to have a quick look at Jon Mellish. Great visual feature this is. I mean, he's all over the pitch. On his heat map, he's constantly covering the whole pitch. I mean, half of it's going to be for each half of the pitch of the game, obviously, I'm guessing. But I just can't get over how big a... We missed him massively at Harrogate. We said that at the time, didn't we? And it really, really showed. And these last couple of games have showed how important he is when he comes into the team and what a difference he makes. And it allows us to change. And this is actually... Having him in the team as a defender makes a big difference to us tactically throughout the whole game, because Simon knows, all right, if I want to change the game, I'll push Jon into midfield, and he'll do the job for me there.
Exactly.
So we basically played 4-3-3 second half, didn't we? So Charters was sort of on the left, and again, a player actually we haven't mentioned too much, Edmondson, put some real donkey work in this game, didn't he?
Yeah, and a lot of the time, the ball came to him, and there's two defenders near him, which he often commands that because he's such a big lad. And I think that's why Dennis was in so much space for both of his goals, because Edmondson was occupying two defenders. Yeah,
and the thing is, actually, as well, to be fair, Dennis didn't do a huge amount in this game. He was fairly quiet, but he was in the right place at the right time for both goals, which is exactly what you want, isn't it? So yeah, fantastic. I mean, we could go on all day. We named pretty much every player in the team and how good they were, haven't we? That's the kind of performance it was. It was fantastic.
And it's weird, and like you say, Dennis, he scored a brace, and normally you score a brace, you'd win man of the match. But for me, I'd probably say man of the match was Mellish, and I'm sure that you could get 50 Carlisle fans and they'd all give you a different man of the match.
Mellish or Moxon for me, definitely. I think Dennis got it on whoscored.com because they base on stats, don't they? So obviously 2 goals is going to get you that. But yeah, brilliant. Right, we'll take a short break and then we'll do the League 2 roundup and also a bit of a preview for the Walsall game. So we're back in just a second.
Hi, I'm Owen Moxon and you're listening to the Brunton Bugle.
There you go, the Denson home Peerlo taking us into the second half of the show. So yeah, because this week we're playing Walsall, we played 2 weeks ago, we're not going to go into a huge amount of depth in terms of the preview for this section, hence why I've moved the League 2 preview, League 2 roundup, into the second half of the show, basically just to balance it out a little bit better. Yeah, let's have a little look through the results in League 2 from this weekend, Mike. I mean, the one that stands out, especially in terms of the attendance, was 18,000, I think, wasn't it? Which was quite incredible. Bradford City against Northampton Town, and Bradford have been going fairly well this season in League 2. Bit of a disappointing result for them, but a fantastic result for Northampton. A 3-1 win. Fantastic.
Bit of a 6-pointer, wasn't it?
Is it a bit early to say 6 points when it's at the top of the league?
Well, come the end of the season, I think Bradford might be thinking, if only we'd won that one.
Possibly, yeah. It's a hard one to judge at the moment, isn't it? I mean, it does push. Because, I mean, the thing is, if Bradford won that game, then they actually would have gone ahead. They would have gone into third. So it is a big result for Northampton, definitely. I mean, Bradford currently sitting on 33 and Northampton are sitting on 38. Northampton haven't lost in the last 6 now, actually. So it's a real turnaround form for them at the moment. I think they've drawn 3 and won 3. So absolutely flying there at the moment. I should say at the top, Leyton Orient just continue to go big guns, don't they? Incredible. Yeah. 45 points already. They're going to hit their 50-point mark before Christmas, probably, at this rate, which,
it's incredible.
Yeah, one of the best performances you've seen in this division.
And still only 2 defeats for them as well, all season.
Yeah, it should be noted, we've only lost 1 more game than them.
Yeah, exactly.
Problem is we've drawn too many. That's the problem. Yeah. That's where we need to change things slightly. Because when you look at it, I think Barrow have lost nearly 4 times as many games as Orient. They've lost 7 so far, but they've only drawn 1, and they've won 11, so they've won 3 more than us, which is frustrating. But it's just the way it is. 2 points ahead of us, they are at the moment. On the point of Barrow, they beat Hartlepool United 3-1. God almighty, Hartlepool look an absolute mess, don't they?
Yeah, they really do. I mean, I'm not entirely sure that they'll be able to pull themselves out of it by the sounds of things. I mean, Keith Curl, I think,
still
post-match. Yeah, well, he was giving it some of these players are not good enough to play in the Football League kind of thing, which is very, managers don't say that unless...
Do you think he's including his goalkeeper in that? Based on that goal? I mean, if you haven't seen it, guys, go and look it up on Hartlepool Barrow goal on Twitter or somewhere like that, or look up the highlights of this game. what the keeper Ben Killip is doing on this goal, I have no idea. He comes out of his goal and got a good 30, 40 yards to sort of go for the ball. Completely sort of cocks up. I don't know if he's trying to kick it or control it or something. Leaves it. The player then nips it off him. He tries to win it back, loses it, then tries to run back, and by this point, Josh Gordon's lobbed it into the empty net, and that just about sums it up. I think, tell you what sums up the day for Hartlepool. Hartlepool fans fighting amongst themselves in the away end. That's a surefire sign of a club that is in an absolute mess, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Pretty embarrassing for them.
But, well, sort of slightly on the topic of Barrow, I don't want to talk about them too much, but the Cumbrian El Clasico is shaping up to be one hell of a game, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, it's one of those ones that I can kind of guess why the club haven't done it yet, because they want to concentrate on the FA Cup game first, get out of the way. I know we'll have the Sutton game before then, but for me, as soon as that FA Cup game's done, get promoting that game against Barrow. You just got to. In fact, I've got a little idea about that in a minute, which I'll sort of mention. I'm sure the club might be considering it as well. It's absolutely incredible. You know what's happening to to the two clubs this season. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Through some of the other results, going through a few here. Colchester 3, Doncaster 0. Didn't see that one coming, did we? No. Colchester have been absolutely awful this season.
Yeah. Well,
really
Harrogate 3, Mansfield 0 as well. I mean, I think we saw when we went to Harrogate that they've got something in them.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Mansfield is still a good side. They I think they were in the playoffs going into that. And
you say Mansfield is still a good side. They've only won one of the last 6.
No, but I mean, they're still 8th,
But it shows how far they were right sort of close to that top 3, and they've dropped off massively recently. So not looking great for Mansfield at the moment. Nigel Clough, I wonder how long it'll be before he's under a bit of pressure, I suppose. And Doncaster similar, they're only 2 points behind Mansfield. Obviously, they're not under a new boss now in Danny Schofield, I think, isn't it? He was Huddersfield manager at the start of the season. So interesting one there. I mean, Colchester, that result actually takes them ahead of Gillingham, who lost 2-0 at Newport County. 19 games in, 6 goals. I mean, God. I mean, defensively, amazing. Defensively, they've only conceded just over 1 a game, which considering Hartlepool have conceded 34, they've conceded 21. They've actually got, looking at it, one of the better defences in the bottom half of the table, Gillingham. But they can't score to save. I mean, they've signed Callum Harriott. I noticed that on a short-term deal today. That's a fairly decent sign of this level. But again, it's put a lot of pressure on his shoulders to get fit and scoring for them, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah. I mean, imagine us being this stage in the season and we'd only scored 6 goals. Like, it doesn't bear thinking about. I mean, I bet even if they're like 5-0 down, I bet when they score 1, the fans must just go absolutely mental. Because, just to actually see a goal.
Yeah, I mean, looking through some of the results, not a huge amount of standout ones, other than maybe Orient beating Stockport 2-1. We mentioned obviously they're doing so well so far, but I mean, Stockport had been picking up a bit of form, and that's a really, that's a statement result for me to go to a team that's hit the form and heading up the table to then go and just beat them 2-1. Yeah. Orient are going up this season. I don't think there's much doubt about that. Yeah. It's going to take a hell of a cock up by them to not, because they can afford to lose 2-3 games and then pick up form again. That's how far ahead they are now.
I'm looking at the squad as well. I don't think they're sort of overly dependent. I mean, I remember like Forest Green, for example, last season, they were really dependent on their 2 strikers.
Yeah, Matt
but
and Stevens.
Leighton Orient aren't overly dependent on anyone,
I think
really.
they need Theo Archibald's a big one for them. But I think one of the big things for them is, I mean, that defensively they've only conceded 12 goals. It's interesting. They've only scored as many goals as we've had. We've scored 30 goals this season. I mean, just actually looking through it, we've actually got the joint second best attack in the division. I hadn't even noticed that. That's quite a testament. With Orient, the best attack is Northampton with 34. But yeah, we're on 30 goals now, and yeah, it shows how good. I mean, admittedly, we've got 6 of those goals in a 3-3 draws, but that's just the way it is sometimes. But yeah, the 20 conceded is not quite as good, but I'm sure we can sort that out probably. Which is actually, again, 1 less than Gillingham. Quite incredible, isn't it? No one's really to pick out. Bar that, I think that pretty much covers it off, doesn't it, in terms of the League 2 preview? So let's get into review. Sorry, I keep saying preview. I don't know why I say that. Let's talk about The Walsall FA Cup game, so no behind enemy lines because we tossed them 2 weeks ago, and it's pointless having exactly the same conversation again. This weekend, 3 p.m. kickoff at the Poundland Bescott Stadium. It's a terrible name. I suppose it's a terrible name through sponsorship, but if it's pumping a load of money into your club, you're probably not going to grumble too much, are you? I mean, I don't think I'd like to be called the Poundland Brunton Park, but
it's something I'm actually quite proud of, that we are one of the few clubs that haven't seemingly sold out the name of our stadium. But I mean, a lot of these clubs, the stadium, I mean, a classic example of this is Bolton. It'll still always be the Reebok Stadium, even though they've had multiple names since. It's often
University of Bolton now, isn't it? I think. So,
yeah, exactly.
It's one of those things. I agree with you. I'm quite proud that we've never done it. I'm similarly in that, the fact that I'm proud that we've not had a gambling company as our front of shirt sponsor, albeit it's a lot less common at this level, I suppose. But there you go. So for this weekend's game, Scott Oldham is the referee. The 40-year-old from Lancashire is in his 6th season as an EFL referee. This season, he's taken charge of 17 games and handed out 54 yellows with no red cards so far. Last season, he handed out 34 yellows and 2 red cards in 34 games. So he's not too card happy, actually. Sorry, it's not 35. I think it's 100 yellows. I think I put that down wrong. I do apologise. 100 yellows and 2 red cards. About three yellows a game and not very many red cards. So that's pretty decent, to be fair. That's what you want to see. In quite a weird coincidence, the last time he actually refereed a United game was the 1-0 win over Walsall at Brunton Park last season, where Justin Abrahams scored a late goal to secure all 3 points for the Blues, and Armour and Guy were booked that day. I remember that one because I was supposed to be going to a gig in Edinburgh that night with my mate Liam, who came to the game with us at the weekend, actually. And yeah, because of the storms and that, we couldn't get up to Edinburgh, so I reluctantly had to actually go to the Carlisle game that I was going to be missing. So so there you go. 3 points did make up for it a little bit. Head-to-head record, 65th meeting between the two sides. United have got 20 wins, 20 games have been a draw, and 24 wins for the Saddlers so far. Yeah, Walsall, so we played them a couple of weeks ago, Mike. It's difficult to judge, isn't it? Obviously, when you play a team so close after you've already have done, we saw that with Tranmere. We won both games. It's a bit of a weird one because I think Tranmere not a particularly great side this season. How do you judge going into a game like that especially when it was such a tight game in the first one? It's a difficult one to sort of work out how you can get the result, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different to Tranmere, and because it was such a stalemate when we last played Walsall. I think they will have sort of thought, oh, Carlisle like to do this. Well, maybe we should counter that by doing this. But at the same time, we'll also be thinking things like that. So it could be a little bit more of an open game, I'd like to think. But, either way, well, obviously there could be a replay. I think that's the last thing that we need right now.
Well, you say it's the last thing we need, but we've got a lot of players who need a bit of game time. So if we can switch things up, I think, and if we get a decent draw, I think we'd grumble at all if we had a replay and a chance to go to Brunton Park and get a result. A replay probably not the worst thing in the world. It could happen, but you'd like to get it done in one go, wouldn't you, I suppose?
Yeah.
Looking through the squad, I mean, I think Peter Clark's actually left since then. I think he's gone back to Oldham on loan, I think. Anyone's really stand out as people we need to keep an eye out for again? I mean, it sounds like from the first game, from speaking to people, that it was Jacob Maddox had a really good game for them, from what I was reading. There was another one then, I can't remember his name now, I can't find it.
I think Manny Month seemed pretty solid at the
at the back. I mean, be interesting because obviously Christian Dennis wasn't 100% fit for the original game, so actually he should be fit for this one. How we go into whether Jordan Gibson does get rested, and do we stick with the same 11, which we'll talk about in a sec, I suppose. But it's interesting to see how we approach that in terms of what we change up. In terms of the FA Cup, obviously into the second round now. First round, you just want to get through, don't you? Basically, you don't want to avoid any upsets in that. You come into the second round now. This is where the excitement really builds, isn't it? Because win this game, you've potentially got a massive tie in the third round, haven't you?
Or you've got a draw against a team that isn't massive, but they'll draw Manchester United away in the fourth round.
Yes, exactly. That's typically what happens to us quite often. Yeah. It's happened a few times, I think. Was it Torquay United who had that?
Torquay did that,
That's the one I remember. Yeah, a game we should have won as well. Yeah, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves in 10th here, but if we were to win, what would your dream tie be?
I mean, I've just sort of touched on it then. I wouldn't mind Manchester United because I've never actually been to Old Trafford.
Have you not?
No, and I think the way that they're going at the minute as well, I kind of fancy us to get a result, especially sort of post World Cup. I think they'd maybe be resting a few players. I'd be too scared of Man City because they've just had way too much depth for their own good.
Well rested Erling Haaland up front as well.
Yeah, exactly. That'd terrify me. So yeah, I'd go Manchester United away. To be honest with you, I think be a massive money spinner for us, and an easy shot at getting into the fourth round as well.
Well, it's interesting. I'd like to get Spurs away, just so we can go to the new stadium because it looks amazing. Everyone I spoke to said it's brilliant as well. That's the obvious one I think to go for. Any of the London clubs away really would be the big London clubs. That is obviously, of course, that would be a nice day out, wouldn't it? But yeah, like Man United or anyone like that would be great. But I think actually the obvious one would be Newcastle United away. The chance to go to St James's Park as well. Fairly local game. I suppose if we play them at Brunton Park, it's more likely to be on TV as well, I guess. But there you go. We're getting ahead of ourselves here because obviously we're still going to beat Walsall. I'm sure Walsall's sitting there thinking, hey, we want to play Villa, we want to play Wolves. That's that's what we're looking for. We're looking a nice big home tie against them. So yeah, it'll be a good contest, I'm sure. Obviously last time out, Walsall did get a victory. They beat Crawley Town 2-1. We didn't mention that one in the League Two review actually. Dramatic late goal in this one, though, by looks of things. Crawley took the lead through Dom Telford after 11 minutes. Hayden White, former Blue, he equalised on 14 minutes before. I'm going to have to pronounce this properly. How do you reckon this goes? Francilete?
We'll go with that.
Francilete was sent off on 39 minutes for Crawley Town, and then Danny Johnson pops up in the 90th minute to get a winner for the Saddlers and keep up their really decent recent form. They're making a bit of a march up the table, actually, should be said. Currently up to 11th, so they're only how many points off? Is it 4 points off the playoffs at the moment? So pretty tight. It's a weird month, isn't it? Because we're going to the FA Cup game this weekend, and we've only played 3 league games this month. In fact, some clubs have only played 2 because of the way that the season is, that with the FA Cup and the World Cup and all that, fixtures are all over the place, and this month's become a really weird month. So how they're going to decide manager of the month, I have no idea. I'm guessing someone could win it effectively with 2 wins across the month, which seems a bit daft, really. But there you go. Yeah. So let's talk about United then, quick, Mike, before we do predictions. What do you do with the team for this game? Do you stick or do you twist?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Dan touched on it a bit in last week's episode that maybe Walsall were a little bit too solid League Two for like Taylor Charters, I think, as much as I'm a fan of him. So it's maybe a good game to bring Gibson back in to sort of say, show us what you've got. But at the same time, if Charters does play, I'm not going to argue against it because he's been in great form. So it's a tough one. I mean, normally you pick your best 11 players on form, but I think we've probably got about 13 players in good form at the minute. So what do you do?
I think if I was going to make a change, I'd maybe rest Dennis from the start on this one because we know he's had his calf problem. You don't need to push him too far. You can bring him on as a sub to make a difference in a game as well. I think I'd start with Jack Stretton with this. Get someone running at them. Have a bit of go with them. But bar that, obviously, if Feeney's injured and Bakker injured, bring in the 2 lads who filled in for them in the last game and just go with that. That's what I'd do. And Jordan Gibson, just tell him, if we aren't getting a result here, you're going to be coming on after like an hour or something like that. So get yourself ready. And yeah, that can make a big difference, I think. I just feel... It's frustrating because it's kind of one of those situations where in an ideal world you think maybe change things up a little bit, but then another way of looking at it is we're in good form. Why change that momentum? Why risk disrupting it?
Exactly.
It's a month where we haven't had many league games, so almost treat it like a league game. Basically, it's the best way to look at it, isn't it? Really. So yeah, maybe that's what you do. Right Right then, let's go to the match prediction section, Mike. We believe that I don't think any of us picked Christian Dennis, Guy, or Whelan.
No,
for goals,
and none of us predicted 4-1.
No one got anywhere near that. So so what are you going for this game?
I'm going to go for 2-1 to the Blues, and I'm going to go for Jack Stretton, and I'm going to go for Owen Moxon as well.
Okay, so you think Stretton's going to start, like me? Okay.
Well, not necessarily start, but I just think he's going to score.
I was going to go for 2-1 as well. I don't know if I should be 1. I'm going to go 3-1. I'm going to be more ambitious. 3-1, and I'm going to have goals from Edmondson, Moxon, and I keep predicting. Do I want to keep going for Huntington or not, or Mellish? Huntington, yeah. Huntington will get the other goals. There you go. 3-1 with those goal scorers. Right, here's Dan's predictions for the game.
I'm going to go... I think it's going to be 1-1 with a replay. I can see it being a tough game. Cancelling each other out like we did up at Brunton Park the other week. I'll go for Ryan Edmondson as our scorer.
Oh, so that's tight, really. Could be interesting to see what happens with that. Right, okay. Let's... I was going to say we'll do the X-Files section, but actually I just realised in the first half show we didn't really talk about actually the day out at Salford, did we, in terms of what happened there? So
no.
So yeah, let's have a little talk about it's our first ever visit to Salford. We talked the other week about Harrogate, didn't we, Mike? About how the ground was a bit of a basic. It was like going to watch to play a non-league club in the FA Cup, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Salford's ground feels a bit bigger, doesn't it? Not much, but a little bit bigger. I think maybe because it's 4 complete stands rather than a higgledy-piggledy mash of about 6 or 7 different stands. I thought actually the actual stand of the away end wasn't too bad. It could maybe have been a little bit higher so you can see a bit more, from the bottom steps, but generally was okay. You could see most of what was going on. Certainly better than Harrogate.
Been a worse away ends. I mean, Harrogate certainly was worse.
We've got to talk about something we don't really actually have to talk about because Craig's done it for us. The toilet situation was an absolute joke. The bar and the food situation was bad as well. They've got plenty of space around the back there as well. It just feels like they've been a bit lazy with that. They've been like, we'll just stick them there. That'll do. So when they get a big away following, it just ends up as absolute chaos, doesn't it? I mean, after the game, people getting so impatient and waiting to go for a wee in the actual ground. There was a load of woods across the road, wasn't there? And people were just going into there to go to the toilet, weren't they? Which is not a pleasant experience, I'm sure, for all the neighbours. But in terms of getting to the ground, I'm not saying having a railway station nearby should be a requirement of joining the Football League, but it should. No, it's it's a 30-35 minute walk, isn't it, to the nearest station? And
yeah, or even in Manchester, there's the tram. Have something nearby.
It's tough because they're planning on moving to the AJ Bell, aren't they, at some point? Which, to be honest, public transport links again there aren't that great. The problem, the advantage the AJ Bell has is it's got a huge car park there, so you can use it. Albeit it's not that great to get into. I've been to the rugby there, so it'll be interesting to see how that pans out for them. But round the ground, there was nowhere to park. Was it? It was residential. For the people who live there, it must be a nightmare of them, becoming a Football League club because it must have been lovely having a nice little quiet ground next door, but. Now,
well, we saw as well, didn't we, at full time that somebody had inconsiderately decided to have a house fire at full time. Well, we're guessing a house fire, I don't know, but a fire engine was trying to get through when everyone was trying to leave the ground, and it just had absolutely no chance. You got that wrong, John. That was Paul Simpson. He called the fire service because Jon Mellish had just got back into the changing rooms and needed put out, didn't he? But yeah, no, seriously, getting to the ground, just an absolute ball ache, basically. We had to get an Uber up in the end, which took us a while to sort out because my phone decided to stop working. The signal in Manchester is just appalling at times. And anyone who's been to Manchester recently knows that the city centre traffic there is just absolutely shit. I live in Liverpool and the city centre traffic is nowhere near as bad as it is in Manchester. I'm sure you deliver that way quite often, don't you, with work? And it's just appalling at the moment. So it took us a while to get out there. We had a lovely taxi driver who was telling us about all the shops along the road up towards the ground, selling knock-off jeans and stuff like that. Good quality Levi's, apparently. So he was a lovely fella. And then after the game, we were like, it was just a nightmare trying to find an Uber. So we walked down a bit and got onto a bus. And as it was, the contactless wasn't working on the bus. So the guy just waved us on. So we got a nice free journey back. And then got stuck in all the traffic at Manchester Victoria Station going to the N-Dubs concert, which I was not going to before you say anything, Mike. Got to get in there quickly. But
yeah, good fun day out, wasn't it? Really, in the end, and it's one of those ones. I think if they could find a more convenient place for the ground, I think they'd be a decent member of the Football League. But at the moment, it's just I can't imagine it's easy for locals to get there either. So it's hard enough for us.
No, exactly. Yeah. And I think as well, the weekend that the game was, I think maybe some Manchester United fans at a loose end might have wanted to go, but it's not an easy ground to get to, like you say. So I think they're shooting themselves in the foot with it, really. Yeah,
interesting to see what happens to crowds if they do move to the AJ Bell, because, like I said, although it's got really good parking, it is the arse end of nowhere. So whether people will be prepared to go there, I don't know, but I'll have to see. Right, so let's wrap it up then, Mike. Let's do the X-File section. Again, as it's going to be over the next few weeks, because there's no Premier League or Championship, and obviously Scottish League as well. Fairly quiet week, but a few little bits happening. First of all, Dinel Simiu. He's been a naughty boy, hasn't he? Sent off for Tranmere in their 2-0 home defeat to AFC Wimbledon. Interesting, I was talking to a fella in work who's a Tranmere season ticket holder, and he was saying just the red mist descended over him, and I don't know if he punched someone or something like that. I think that seems to be what happened, and I think he's basically admitted he was an idiot, hasn't he? I think he's apologised online, and I've seen some interesting comments from some Carlisle fans towards him. We're a bit unnecessary,
it's a bit weird, but fans that were desperate for him to sign for us in the summer.
Exactly, so it's a very, very strange behaviour, that, I guess. Hayden White, as you mentioned already, he scored for Walsall in their 2-1 win over Crawley Town. Andy Cook, he scored again for Bradford, but his penalty wasn't enough as they lost 3-1 to Northampton Town at home. Adam Campbell scored for Gateshead. They picked up a bit of a surprise 3-1 home win over Southend United, because Southend United have been flying. Gateshead have really been struggling this season. So that was a bit of a surprise one. And a nice combination here. Gavin Riley and Josh Todd both scored for Queen of the South as they won 4-1 over Montrose at home. Only one other bit of news, isn't there, Mike? And this is a real blast from the past.
Yeah.
For those, probably not one of the younger fans will remember, but Kevin Harper. Remember him?
Yeah. You say some of the younger fans won't remember. I think some of the older fans won't remember.
Probably not, no. But actually, you know what? He came on loan under, I think it was under Neil McDonald, wasn't it?
Neil McDonald,
one season in charge. Actually, a good, tidy little player, wasn't he? And I think there was a bit of a surprise we managed to get him on loan. Was it from Stoke, I think, at the time?
It was on loan from Stoke at the time, yeah.
It was, and he was a lovely little player. I don't think we could actually afford to keep him any longer than we had him on loan, was it? Well, he lives up in Scotland. Obviously, he's from Scotland originally.
Didn't he have a shop selling suits?
I think, he's a proper high-end tailor, wasn't he, or something like that? I think he went towards the end of his career, so he didn't really need them when he was in football. So he is basically he was appointed as the manager of I hope I'm going to pronounce this right. Lockheed United, which are based in Dundee. Part of the SJFA Midlands League. So that's the Scottish Junior Football Association Midlands League. Now, 5 days later, he's been sacked. I don't think he even managed... I'm not sure he even managed the game. I'm trying to find the details. But from what I can gather, it's very, very odd behaviour, isn't it? Apparently one of the club's sponsors has actually pulled out of sponsorship of the club as a result of the decision. It's really, really, really weird thing, isn't it? Interesting, his first job back in management after 2.5 years out it was. So, apparently he's threatening the club with legal action as a result. So, interesting to see what happens there. We'll keep an eye on that one, see whether he does take it up. But that's the only bit of news from the X-File section, and that's it for this week, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah.
So, interesting one what we'll do next week, because neither of us are going to this game, and I don't think Dan is either, so we're going to have to sort of rely on the highlights, I think, aren't we? So
and anyone doing a 60-second review.
Yes, so if you're going to the game and you fancy talking to us about it, drop us a message, whether it's on Twitter, by email, bruntonbugle@gmail.com, and we'll definitely include your 60-second review. We're more than happy to do that, and hopefully come next week's recording, we'll know who we've got in the third round of the FA Cup. That's what we're praying. We're crossing our fingers here.
Yeah.
We could be talking about a big cup tie. And on that point, actually, that's the thing I was going to say actually before we finish. That's what I was thinking about the Barrow game. So I think we need to be really promoting the Barrow game from Monday onwards. If we get a big draw in the cup, it's at home.
Voucher system.
It don't even need to be voucher, does it? Just say if you buy a ticket for the Barrow game, you are next in priority after season tickets. for the big game, whoever it's against, instantly you're pushing your crowd towards 10k. Then I think we could easily get 10k for this game because both teams are doing so well. They'll bring up 1,500, you'd think.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll have their lovely day out in the big city. Get themselves back in time to watch England play. Hopefully in a quarter-final that would be by then. I think that potentially will be a quarter-final against France. Possibly, so that could be quite an interesting day. That. Yeah. So hopefully it'll be a really exciting day. We'll try and get Adam Johnson back on for that one. Maybe to talk about the game beforehand as well. We'll try and get a Sutton fan on next week as well, hopefully. But that's it for now. And those interviews, they are going to go early next week. We're going to get both of the... You
said this last week.
I know I did, but I've ended up having a stupid busy week, annoyingly. But I've got a fairly quiet weekend, so I'm hoping to get both the Halpin and Dennis interviews out early next week. So you will get them. I 100% promise, but there you go. Right, Mike, thanks for joining me.
Right, cheers.
Thanks everyone for listening, and most importantly of all, up the Blues.
Up the Blues.